Hey, it's Clay at claytrader.com. This will be my top 10 stocks as we head into Monday, October 10th. This will be a technical analysis breakdown. So if you're somebody that uses charts within your trading, or maybe you're just interested in learning more about charts and how they can be used to help make good decisions as a trader, this will be a video for you. Real quick, a couple of clarification points. First off, this number you see over here will still be changing, and then the candlestick you see right there will also be moving around. That's because the market's still open for a small amount of time, but I like to do these videos when the market is still open because sometimes we can capture some really interesting late day price movement. And then second, I'll be using the 30-minute time frame, meaning each one of these candlesticks here, as they're called, represents 30 minutes worth of time. So stock number one here, TLRY, one of the pot stocks that got the big boom late day on Thursday because of that news that came out. And right now looking like just a buy the rumor, sell the news type thing, as the price gapped all the way up here and then sold off the remainder of the day. But what does make this interesting is the price has started to level out here a little bit. Now let me be very clear. Just because the price started to go sideways does not mean that for sure guaranteed this is the bottom. If only trading were that easy. My point here is, does it become valid? Does it become a rational thought to now start to think, okay, price has gone sideways. Price is still up above that purple line there, the 50-period moving average. Maybe, just maybe, this is some sort of bottom. Yeah, that is a more than plausible and rational question to ask. So if you're someone that likes to play these pullbacks and then look for, a move back to the upside, the key reversal point looks to be right there around the $3.30 mark. So keep an eye on that. And then, as I already pointed out, as far as the supports are concerned, keep a close eye on that purple line there, which on my chart denotes the very famous 50-period moving average, currently valued at 307. So yes, maybe this is the beginning of the end, and the price just keeps bleeding and bleeding, which is why risk management is important. But if this thing decides all of a sudden snap back upwards, you could have a very nice risk versus reward scenario. Next one, AMD, and this thing is just absolutely crazy. When you draw this trend line, I'm sure I'm exaggerating here a little bit, but I can't remember the last time I've seen a trend line. Well, I still don't even draw it steep enough, which just goes to show how crazy this trend line actually is. But look how steep. There we go. That trend line actually is. It didn't go straight down, but it got about as close to going straight down as possible on the day. AMD, very, very popular stock, very, very well-known stock, which is important for these sorts of scenarios because it's one of those situations where even if it's not bad news, even if it's just not as bad of news, any sort of move, especially up through that trend line, it's rational. It could create a dead cat bounce. Now, I'm not saying a reversal where it comes back up here to, $68 and closes the gap, but just from a trading standpoint, really anything, any spark at all. Just because of the nature of today, of how bad it was beaten down, you got to think that it becomes a very interesting situation in and of itself. And that's what watch lists are all about, finding unique, finding interesting situations, and then not randomly rush out and buy anything, but watching it and see how the price ultimately behaves. So if you like to play these sorts of, situations where you have a very popular stock that's been severely, severely beaten down and look for some sort of potential dead cat bounce, then this one certainly fits the bill. Next one here, LUCY, but honestly, this one changed quite a bit the last time I was looking at it, and I'm still going to talk about what I figured I was going to be talking about, but yeah, this last 30 minutes, goodness, out of nowhere, just big pullback here. Has it ruined the chart? That'd be a little too overly dramatic, but yeah, it's certainly introduced a bunch of new questions that, was not there previously, and the big question is, okay, is this last 30 minutes the start of something much bigger? Is this thing going to keep bleeding? To be fair, maybe this is just kind of an overblown move to the downside, and the price will recover back upwards. So in that event, and like I said, the key dynamic that I was planning on talking about was the fact that you had this very well-defined area up here at $3.50 as resistance. And I like well-defined areas because call it a self-fulfilling prophecy, call it whatever you want. When a bunch of people are watching the same level, wondering the same thing, it can produce some very nice movements. So again, if the price does actually recover back up there and breaks up through that area, as I've said previously, are there guarantees? No, but is it a plausible, is it a valid thought that if it breaks 350, that could create additional upwards buying pressure? That's certainly a valid thought to have. But as I speak, and that's why I like to do these when the market's still open, but yeah, as I speak, this thing just continues to fall. So let's squeeze things down here a little bit to just show a little bit more context. So the next couple areas of support to keep an eye on. First one is going to be the lows from right here at 275, but as of now, looking like it could potentially close down below there. If it does close down below 275, next key level of support would then be down there right around $2.53. But yeah, no doubt about it. Last 30 minutes here has really changed the narrative around this chart. But to be fair, maybe it gets the bounce off here and comes back up for a break at 350. We'll have to see. Next one, ADTX, and another one here where you had a nice move up and then you have the pullback, and definitely a couple different situations. And why I like this one, because it gives truly some good opportunities depending on however you want to do it. So first one would be for you pullback players. You have that 50-period moving average right now valued at $3.60, which would make sense to keep an eye on. If you want to be a little bit more conservative, you could say, well, I want the price to come down to that pink line, which is the 200-period moving average, and basically valued at the 350 mark. Or you can always, try to find a middle ground and just try to split the difference. But point here being, if you would consider yourself a pullback player, then you do have a pretty big pullback here within a stronger move that's approaching some very well-known levels. So once again, it introduces that whole idea of self-fulfilling prophecies and the price bouncing from that area, well, just because it's supposed to bounce. As far as levels of resistance are concerned, the main resistance trend line that I think a lot of people are going to be watching is that level right there. And then just to illustrate this from a pattern perspective. So yes, there is this downwards channel. I'll change that to green to represent more so the bullish part of the pattern. So make this all one color. So we have this downwards channel, but the key dynamic here is, well, what was happening before the downwards channel? Well, you had that big explosion up. So even with the pullback, this is what would be known as a bull flag pattern. Now, just because something's bullish doesn't mean it's for sure going to go up. But nonetheless, if you like to play bull flags, if you like to play pullbacks, then keep an eye on this one, and we'll see what happens with it on Monday. Next one here, AMC. Been tracking this one on a routine basis, and that's where the red and green line here are coming from. And going into today, you had the pattern here, but opening part of the day, you can see broke down through that trend line and then never really looked back and sank further and further downwards. How bad was it? Well, the price even went down to these previous lows. Whoops. Right here. And then let me get that out from behind my ugly mug. There we go. So went from, these lows right here at 660 and even broke through those, which does bring about the first key dynamic. And this is just based on a foundational rule in charting. When levels of support are broken and closed below, they tend to act as resistance. So to give some credit due, at least the price did finally start to go sideways here. So if this does try to turn around and bounce, that'll be the first big question mark. Can the price now break up above $6.60? So that'll be the main area of resistance in the very near term. And then as far as levels of support are concerned, nothing fancy, nothing complicated at all. Literally just a question of where did the bleeding finally stop today? And the bleeding finally stopped down there at $6.40. So keep an eye on that. And, if you want to just call it a pattern, if anything, you have a little short-term sideways channel pattern here. So now it just becomes a question of, who's ultimately going to win out. Are the bulls going to win out with a, continued move back to the upside, or the bears going to win out with another push to the downside? We'll see how it plays out on Monday. Want to take a quick break and personally invite you to get signed up for this free live online training that I'm offering next week. So if you've been enjoying what you've seen and you want to learn more about this tool, how it can and should be used to help build consistency as a trader, then certainly get signed up for the free training. If you're watching on YouTube, there's a link down in the description box. If you're watching at my site, there's an area right there on the webpage that you can click to get signed up. So like I said, if you've been enjoying what you see and you want to learn more, certainly get signed up for the free training. Next one, NIO, and another very brutal day on this one. Not because it was necessarily, well, yes, because it was red played a role, but just from a technical point of view, you can see that this green line here was illustrating a spot where the price had not been for, we're talking months upon months since the price was last down in this area. But now it's not only gone down to that green line, not only broken that green line, but it just has continued to drop further and further. So the first key update once again goes back to just that rule that I've stated. When levels of support are broken and closed, well, they tend to act as resistance. So keep an eye on 1475. But in all actuality, that yes, it's relevant, but it's not really the most relevant level, because from that angle, we'd want to come down to that $14 mark. So $14, if this sideways movement does try to make a move back to the upside, will be the first key question mark in terms of resistances and whether or not the price can make the move up through it. So keep an eye on 14. And then as far as levels of support, just like AMC, becomes a question of, okay, well, where did the bleeding finally stop today? And that was down there at 1350. So 1350 will be that main level right there. But yeah, no doubt about it, a brutal way to close out the week for NIO. Next one, ACB, and this is another one of these marijuana stocks, which was essentially just a pump and dump. But what's interesting about pump and dumps is sometimes you can get good, solid dead cat snapbacks. But yeah, when I say pump dump, all I mean is that there's this big pump here, and then the price not only went back to where it started, which was right there, but just kept on going and dropping further, which makes this a brutal setup. So this is definitely just for those that are going to be honoring risk, that have, risk management protocols within their strategy. I mean, if you don't, you shouldn't be trading in the first place, but that's a whole other discussion. Point here being is that these are definitely ones that you better be disciplined on, because this thing could just as well keep on bleeding downwards, and you don't want to be one of these people that's, becomes a total bag holder. So just to illustrate here how the price has now started to pull back to these levels that it's bound from before. But the very interesting level is down there at $1.12. You can see that's where the price was down last time before making a nice move. Now, again, no guarantee, so I'm not saying that if the price goes down to that green line, for sure it's going to bounce. My point here is it plausible? Is it valid to think that there could be some sort of double bottom pattern where you get a bounce? Yeah, that's a rational thought process to have. Nobody could accuse you of, thinking that that's some sort of random area, because no, there's some data here that suggests it has bounced before. So again, if you like to play these stocks where things are getting absolutely beat down, but then you could potentially be looking at a double bottom pattern, keep an eye on it. Next one here, TSLA Tesla, and a lot of these other stocks, just absolutely brutal today, and the lowest that this one has been in a very long time, which is, in my mind, the more interesting part is Tesla has not been down this far. As you can see, we're talking for months now, which brings about the first key level where, a lot of people are going to be watching it, and that's going to be down here at that $215 mark, which is going all the way back here to early July right here. And you can see a couple other data points right around that area. And clearly, I state the obvious when I say a lot of downwards momentum has shown up. So at this point, it doesn't seem too unreasonable to think that 215.50 could get tested. And if that level doesn't quite hold up, next level to keep an eye on after that would then be down there right around the 209 mark. So keep an eye on those couple of areas of support, which aren't even visible right now. If you want to do a really short-term support, then yeah, you can just go back to the question of where did the bleeding finally stop today? And that was down there at basically 222. What about areas of resistance though? Key level that stands out to me, if there is going to be any sort of bounce back to the upside, is going to be that area right there, which sits right around the $227 mark. So keep an eye on that. But yeah, no doubt about it. A lot of downwards pressure in it today, but we'll see if there can be at least some sort of dead cat early next week. Next one, CCL. And what is interesting about this one is that we very well may have a double bottom pattern underway here. So we have low number one right there. And then you can see today price came down there, went sideways, and the price is now starting to bounce back upward. So first off, to anybody that noticed that before and bought down there, congratulations, you got yourself a great entry point. But going back to the whole philosophy of a watch list, finding unique, interesting situations, this is certainly interesting because the big question now is, okay, it came down there, it found support, it got the bounce. Is this the start of a much bigger move? Now, to be fair, maybe it's not. Maybe this thing just rolls right back over. That's possible, but that's a two-sided coin because, well, maybe it is. And this thing keeps on rocking and rolling all of next week. Not sure, nobody knows, but what everybody does know is, okay, we have ourselves a unique and interesting situation, so let's see how the price continues to behave. So if you like to play potentially the start of a much bigger bounce that may turn into a reversal, I mean, you have that, have the sideways movement, you have this the bounce, not just a question of can it keep moving. So yeah, keep an eye on it. Next one, SQQQ, and this is just an ETF that allows you to make money if the NASDAQ market goes down. So if the NASDAQ market goes down, this one actually goes up in value. So, and that's why today this thing not only had a big gap up, which you can see right there, but it just ripped and roared and grinded all day long. And it's now starting to once again come up to some very, very interesting levels. And the first level that I think a lot of people will be watching is going to be right here at essentially that $60 mark. But the level that everybody and their brother's uncle is going to be watching is right up here at $61.50 because that is essentially those highs from before. And if the price can get through both those areas, then no guarantees, as I've said a million times now, but that does lead to a more than plausible conclusion that, okay, that may be the leading indicator that there's even more strength to come. And maybe a breakout is just getting started at that point. If you are somebody that likes to play the pullbacks, then you have a first key level of pullback right there around 57.25. Then if you want an extra aggressive pullback, right down there around the $56 mark is quite interesting also. But yeah, no doubt about it. Big movement today, big volume, and not just a question of can the price keep moving upwards. We'll have to see what happens. So that wraps up the top 10 list. Again, if you like what you saw here, then I want you to get signed up for the free training next week. It'll be Thursday, October 13th at 7 p.m. Eastern time. So definitely get signed up for it. If you enjoy these top 10 videos, do two things for me. Hit that like button, leave a comment below, tell me what you'll be trading next week. Thanks for watching, everybody. Take care. Have a good one.